Adev says, did y'all enjoy the panel earlier? Yes, yes, I know I enjoyed it. Some great talks going on today. Just a lot of energy, a lot of excitement. I see it in my timeline. So many people, not just who are here, but all over the world, watching this, tuning into this. I don't know where the camera is for the live feed, but hello world. This is such an exciting moment, and I'm so proud to be here at this time in Hayastan during this. It's very special. I have one slide, which I've already put up here, and it's actually from my good friend and business partner, Gary Tan. Now, he's not Armenian, but he's honorary in my book. He's one of my closest friends. We've done a lot of really awesome things together. And I think that this is an apt quote, especially for right now and the time that we're in, both in technology as well as Armenia's role in the world. And it's one that's lingered with me, and I've been chewing on this thing for the last couple of weeks because I wasn't sure what I wanted to talk about. And then Gary found this quote, and it just kept rattling around in my brain, right? It's pretty magical. This is from Nikola Tesla in 1926. Now, the world slept on Tesla for far too long. For decades, he was never given credit for so many of his engineering marvels. Now, frankly, thanks in part to Elon Musk, the Tesla name is pretty well known, I think, in the world. And the man behind it is starting to get some of his due for his genius. But this, 1926, talking about a future that today in 2019 feels pretty accurate. All right, I don't know about you, I try to make predictions about the World Cup. I try to make predictions about my own business. I don't do that well. But this guy, man, he nailed it. And a couple of things that are worth really highlighting here. The whole earth will be converted into a huge brain. And we're getting there. We're seeing this. There's still half the world not yet connected onto the internet, but it will come. We're seeing a world, here, right here in Armenia, that you have access to. And I remember my first trip in 2010, and I remember having to go get a USB stick, I think it was a 3G stick, that I could plug into my laptop so I could tap in. And I had to go refill that SIM card like every other day, because I was just tearing through so much internet, right? And how much has already changed. Right, we now have companies on their way to billion-dollar valuations that were started here. And we all can tap into this global brain because we all have a computer or a telephone that can be carried in our vest pockets. No one wears vests anymore, but you get the point, right? This was such a prescient quote, and we are in this age of a global brain, where as long as we are online, we have access to the world's knowledge, to the very best ideas. And then we also have a level playing field to share those ideas with the world. And in many ways, this was the unintentional spirit that we created Reddit with. But more importantly, I think this is why this is such an important time for a country like Armenia, which has very challenging neighbors, which is landlocked, which has limited natural resources, all the things you know, but which has, at this time, such an amazing opportunity because the human talent that has always been in this country has a chance to thrive as a part of this global brain because of software and because of the internet. That's why I was imploring all of you to at least try to get into programming, to encourage young people, boys and girls, to get into programming, because the foundation really is already there. Chess is an amazing foundational learning model for programming, but we need to go further. And I remember in 2010 visiting Tumo Center when it was still under construction. And I remember being told about all the promise that it would provide, that any young Armenian could come in there and start to learn, whether it's about computer science or design or art. And they could do so with world-class tools and lessons. And in the years since that I have come back, I have seen Tumo filled with exactly the bright minds, the bright Armenian minds, getting access to world-class tools and technology just as it was promised. And they're finding their place within this huge global brain, right? Thanks to software and thanks to the internet. And it makes me so hopeful because now more and more Armenians are repatriating here because they want to plug in here to that global brain because they know the talent is here. They're opening offices, Service Titan, right? The founders were at a dinner with me last night, and I was so delighted to see how bold and bullish they were on expanding their teams here in Armenia and bringing all of the lessons and basically a paid education to any of the employees who are coming to work here, and to see firsthand how a sort of, a $1 billion US tech type company is run and operates. And that's education that doesn't come necessarily out of textbooks, it comes from experience, and people are getting it. You all are getting it and have an opportunity to grow with it. And it gets me excited because I think about all the opportunity that I was fortunate enough to get because of a bunch of circumstances that led me to have the opportunities that I had. And I still remember the stories. My grandfather, he's now a great-grandfather, because after Olympia was born. The stories that my grandfather still tells about the journey that his parents had and what they had to witness during the genocide, and then what they were able to get an opportunity to have, whether it was through France or through Syria, and then eventually get to the United States, where they found opportunity. And those stories linger with me, especially at a time where the US is being, frankly, more antagonistic towards immigrants and refugees than I've ever seen in my lifetime. And I can't help but think that there were some refugees that were coming off a boat from Syria via some place in the world that the average American at the border had never heard of, that they gave an opportunity to. And because of that opportunity, because of that very fortuitous circumstance, a few generations later I showed up and was able to get into programming, was able to build something that is now arguably one of the 10th largest websites in the world. But Reddit doesn't happen unless my great-grandfather gets an opportunity. And for him, surviving the genocide, the opportunity was in the United States. But the world has changed tremendously. And the opportunities now, because of this technology, are far more broadly distributed than ever before. And that's a frustrating thing as an American, because frankly it means we have to work much harder to compete with the rest of the world. But you know what? I'm okay with that, because I'm up for the challenge. And more importantly, I think there are so many opportunities long overdue for parts of the world that were denied it for no good reason. And that change is happening here. And so it makes me so excited to meet with founders like I did last night. Had a restaurant dining room full of founders, all female founders of Armenian startups. They are part of this new tech economy. And it's an opportunity to plug into something that is special. And I love the fact that we as a nation have such a sort of cultural preference for solving really hard technical problems. We are just seeing the start of an AI, an artificial intelligence and machine learning revolution. And so much of the really hard, complicated tech required to do this is very much in our DNA, especially in the country of Armenia. And so many of the problem solvers that are going to need to build the tools that are going to build this future global brain are actually right here. And as you've heard during this conference, the future of work is really either going to be robots or cyborgs. Work that can be automated, not necessarily because it is not a question of white collar or blue collar. It's a question of how repetitive is the work versus how creative is the work. If the work that is being done tends to be more repetitive, whether it is data entry or whether it is putting a square peg in a square hole, that work is going to be the first to be automated. And this automation is coming not in the next century, but in the next decade. And the good news is that this will lead to drastic reduction in cost and drastic improvement in efficiency in a lot of ways. I do think long term it ultimately means humans get to do the work that we are best at, the work that humans can do so much better and will always do better than robots. And that's where the cyborgs come in. So don't be weirded out too much. I'm not talking about like literally melding your body with a robot, but I do mean metaphorically. So many of the systems that are going to be built are going to automate away the most repetitive parts of work so that the more creative, the more empathetic, the more dynamic parts of the job, that can be done by the humans that do it best. And so when I talk to people, whether it's back in the States or right here, who are just entering the workforce or are still building the skills to do so, I would say look for the careers and look for the skills that require creativity, that require empathy, right? My sister is a nurse, and when I hear about the work that she does, I can't help but laugh, because there is no way in hell a robot is going to do her job. The work that nurses or medical professionals broadly, but especially nurses do, is so required. The empathy is so required, and the dexterity and the creativity and the problem solving, those jobs are only going to be made better in the future, because software will do the most repetitive parts of that job, from scheduling to note-taking. Again, the things that robots and software can do best, but not the actual human work. And so as you think about where your future, where your career, where your passion fits into this global brain, optimize for those things that are truly human. And if we can get through this, if we can get this to come to fruition, I think we'll find ourselves in a place where some of our most human qualities get to shine, and the work we do will get to have a level of satisfaction that historically we just haven't been fortunate enough to have. And I'm particularly excited for the arts, which I know is probably the last thing you expected me to talk about. And yes, I know there's plenty of AI generated music out there. You can find some demo for something that's been, that's art made by a robot, you can find on YouTube. But I really do think that there are going to be new opportunities to make careers out of creative work, because so many of the tools to get that work financed are now being invented and spread worldwide. There are going to be more ways than ever to find a way to make a living from creating something that is truly human and truly unique. And we saw it in the first rise of crowdfunding and Kickstarter and Patreon, but we're gonna see it continue to evolve, because money as we know it is going to change. And I assume there's probably a few folks who are fans of crypto who are here. There are 2 of you, okay. That's okay. There's 3, okay, there's 1 extra. There is an amazing change happening in the world right now, because if we think about this global brain and we think about the things that software can help make better, cheaper, faster, one of the core ones is the economic change that will come as money, as the value transfer systems get far cheaper and far more efficient. And so whether you're sending remittances or whether you're just trying to get paid for some digital artwork you created, the blockchain is actually going to be a core part of that technology. And I know we saw the big hype cycle, we saw the crash. I try not to pay attention at all to market prices of coins. I think it's a waste of your time. I think instead, if you're looking to the people who are actually building real technological solutions, that are actually building software on the blockchain, that is where there is a new future happening. That is where this huge whole earth brain really gets amazing. Because so far, we've been able to see what happens when ideas can transfer across borders instantly. And we're starting to get a glimpse when you can start an app like PixArt in Yerevan and sell it to people all over the world. You're still working through someone else's app store for now. And you heard the great anecdote about how they hacked the Google Play Store, which is pretty hilarious. You're still working through someone else's app store, and you're still paying a toll every time your app gets downloaded. But you're now plugged into a global network, not just for your ideas, but getting paid for it. And my bet is, as this technology continues to improve, there are going to be more and more channels to do so, far cheaper, far easier, and far faster than ever before. And that's going to lead to more innovation. Because at the end of the day, money or some form of that value still makes the world go around. And if we can finally build a currency that lives up to the sort of global internet connected brain that we've already created, I think really interesting things can happen. And I think about this a lot, because my day job at Initialized is to try to invest in companies that are, yes, going to make my investors money. That's still the core business proposition. But that I believe are going to do so by making this world a little better for my daughter and for hopefully lots of your kids. Because I do feel a responsibility and an opportunity to improve this thing. And selfishly, one of the best ways to do that, I believe, is to give more people more access to these tools, to this global brain, and a way to make a living from it, because it will surface up more ideas. It will surface up better things. And the reality is, if we're only benefiting from the ideas of a select few, we're not all winning. We're not all actually benefiting from the great potential and the great opportunity. And this country has such a legacy, such a history, so many ideas worth sharing, and so many Armenians that have historically thrived all over the world that now are gonna do so here. And I'm just humbled to be a part of it. I'm humbled and honored to be a member of this tribe. And I know I spent most of my childhood not really ever feeling Armenian enough. I don't speak very much Armenian. I blame my dad. But his parents both spoke it as their secret language at home. And they felt such a need to assimilate within American culture that my dad never learned it. So I never learned it. Googling about Armenians, and like, this is a moment you want to have with me because you knew that would be something I would want to hear. She's like, no. And it warmed my heart, and it got me thinking. I started this talk off saying, we now have, we obviously have a long history of loving the sport. There's a K through 12 education required for everyone. It is such a good, logical foundation for thinking about problem solving, even if you don't become a programmer, but definitely if you become a programmer. And so I was very incentivized, not just so that Olympia could feel a connection to her Armenianness. I mean, she's got the last name, and she'll obviously be raised right. But the idea that this was something, a little bit of our cultural legacy that she can enjoy. And then I also realized, gosh, if I could get two birds with one stone. I could find an Armenian tutor of chess who could also teach her Armenian. And then it's like two birds with one stone, right? Now, I think the important takeaway, at least for me, from all this is, we are a special people. We have triumphed over so much. And this is a really unique time where I've had more friends than ever, more strangers than ever, ask me about Armenia, be excited about Armenia. You saw Gary Vaynerchuk this morning. I saw him on the plane, and he said to me, I've always wanted to go, but this felt like the time I needed to go and be here and be a part of this. And that moved me. Like, this is a dude from Jersey who felt the energy from all over the world about what was happening here and wanted to come here and be a part of it and be a part of this historic event. And so please continue to extend that same warmth, that same connection. I'm going to keep trying to be a good ambassador, as good of an ambassador an Armenian American can be, but I will continue to be the best ambassador I can. But please let these words from Nikola Tesla almost a century ago not be lost on you, because this is coming to fruition. This is here in many ways. And the opportunity it means for this nation is one that is very special and could not have come at a better time. Because now, post-revolution, there are so many opportunities, and technologically now, so many opportunities than ever before. So I'm thrilled to be here. At the end of the day, you all make all this possible. I really did mean it when I said that I was so moved watching this peaceful revolution across social media, and the only thing I could say I contributed to it was a few retweets. But I do really believe that same agent for change that helped bring all of that about is the same agent that is going to help this country thrive as a part of this global brain. That same impetus for progress and against whatever odds, a willingness to set one's own destiny. So I'm excited to watch it. I will continue to visit. I will continue to come back and continue to be awed by the change every time I come back. And again, I just thank you humbly. I'm so proud to be in this tribe, so proud to be here.